Hey everyone, welcome back to another sleepy journey with boring history for sleep. Tonight, we're stepping into a world that's dusty, dramatic, and a little bit chaotic, a world of togas, temples, and traffic jams that would make your modern commute look like a gentle stroll. We're diving into life in ancient Rome around 100 AD, a time when glory was carved in marble, but daily life was anything but glamorous. Forget the Hollywood gladiator movies with their shining armor and heroic fanfares, this reality might just break you in a single day. So, before you settle in, take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe if you enjoy these tales. And please, drop a comment, where are you tuning in from, and what time is it there? It's always fascinating to see the world join us on these quiet adventures. Now, dim the lights, let a fan hum softly in the background if you like, or pull a cozy blanket up to your chin. Maybe sip some warm tea or just close your eyes. Let's drift into this journey together, and hopefully, it'll ease you into a peaceful, dream-filled night. Congratulations, you've just woken up in Rome, year 100 AD. The good news? You're alive and breathing, barely. The bad news? So are the flies, and they're already buzzing around your face like tiny, unwelcome guests at a feast, their wings a soft hum that tickles your ears. Your bed isn't a bed in any modern sense, it's a wooden slab, rough-hewn and splintered, its edges digging into your hips, topped with a thin mat of straw that's been stuffed with bugs, hay, and probably the remnants of last week's supper, the scent a mix of damp earth and something sour you'd rather not name. The straw pokes through, jabbing your ribs and spine like tiny accusatory fingers, each poke a reminder of your place, and it smells like a barn that's been forgotten by time, earthy, musty, with a hint of rot that clings to your nostrils. There's no memory foam to cradle your aching back, no fluffy pillows to soften the hard edges, no Egyptian cotton sheets to soothe your skin against the cold. Instead, you've got a scratchy wool cloak for a blanket, heavy and stiff from months of wear, its fibers matted with sweat, dust, and the faint, lingering odor of last week's olive oil spill, the grease seeping into the wool like a stubborn stain. It's so thick it feels like it's been woven from the fleece of a particularly grumpy sheep, and it weighs about as much as a small goat, dragging you down into the slab as you try to shift, the weight pressing against your chest. The bugs have already started their morning feast, fleas hopping along your legs with little pricks of pain, lice burrowing into your scalp with an itch that drives you mad, and something unidentified crawling across your chest, its tiny legs tickling your skin. You scratch absent-mindedly, your nails scraping against the itch, but it only spreads the torment, the skin reddening under your touch. The air is thick with the scent of smoke from the brazier that died out hours ago, its ashes cold and gray, mixed with the stale breath of your family sleeping nearby, a chorus of snores and murmurs that fills the room. The morning begins with a rooster's scream, a shrill, relentless noise that cuts through the dawn like a Roman trumpet gone rogue, its cry piercing your eardrums and jolting you awake. It's Rome's version of an alarm clock, only louder, more persistent, and entirely indifferent to your exhaustion, the sound bouncing off the walls like a taunt. You blink awake, your eyes gritty from the smoky haze that lingers in the room, the particles settling into the corners of your vision, as the first weak rays of sunlight filter through the wooden shutters of your insula. An insula is what passes for an apartment block here, a rickety, six-story structure that sways like a drunk sailor whenever the wind picks up or someone upstairs drops a pot, the creaks and groans a constant lullaby. It's built from cheap wood and crumbling plaster, the kind of construction that looks like it might collapse if you sneeze too hard or if the neighbor's goat decides to headbutt a wall, its foundation a prayer held together by hope. There are no glass windows, just wooden slats nailed haphazardly together, letting in slivers of light along with a chilly draft that bites at your exposed skin, raising goosebumps on your arms. The smell inside is a fragrant symphony you'll never unlearn, a pungent mix of stale bread left out too long, its crust hardening into stone, garum, that fishy, fermented sauce Romans adore and you secretly dread, its salty tang lingering like a bad memory, your neighbor's unwashed toga, which hasn't seen soap since the last emperor's coronation, a fabric museum of sweat and grime. And a faint undertone of urine from the chamber pot in the corner, its contents sloshing with every step. You try to stretch, but your back creaks like an old chariot wheel that's been left out in the rain, the joints popping like dry twigs, and your knees groan as if they're already plotting a rebellion against the day ahead, the pain shooting up your legs. You're 25 years old, but in Roman terms, that's practically middle-aged. Your body feels like it's been through a siege, your muscles tight, your bones weary, and the day hasn't even begun. Your home is a single room, about the size of a modern closet, a cramped space where every inch is a battleground for survival. You share it with a family of 5, your parents, their faces lined with years of toil, 2 siblings who bicker over the last fig, and a cousin who snores like a broken bellows, his breath a rhythmic rumble, plus a goat that thinks it owns the place, its bleats a morning alarm, and a thriving colony of ants that march in disciplined lines across the floor, their tiny bodies glistening in the dim light. The walls are cracked plaster, stained black with soot from the brazier you use for heat, the marks curling upward like the ghosts of past fires, their edges flaking onto the floor. The floor is cold, uneven stone, slick with moisture because the roof leaked last night, leaving a puddle in the corner that you'll have to step over with bare feet, the water cold against your soles. The ceiling is low, the thatch above it sagging under the weight of time, neglect, and the occasional bird that's made a nest up there. Every now and then, a stray straw or a feather floats down, landing on your face like a gentle taunt, its touch a whisper against your cheek. There's no privacy here, your family is waking up around you, groaning and muttering curses at the rooster, their voices a sleepy chorus, while the goat chews on something suspiciously close to your sandal, its jaws working with a rhythmic crunch that grates on your nerves. The ants are undeterred, heading for a crumb of bread you dropped last week, their tiny legs clicking against the stone, a sound that blends with the distant clatter of carts outside. The air is thick, heavy with the scent of humanity, sweat from unwashed bodies, the sour tang of breath held too long, and that faint, lingering whiff of something you hope isn't mold but deep down no probably is, a dampness that seeps into your lungs. A baby cries somewhere above, its wails echoing through the thin walls, sharp and insistent, and a dog barks outside, adding to the morning cacophony, its bark a rough bark that reverberates. This is your sanctuary, your castle, a charming open-concept floor plan where humans, livestock, and insects coexist in a delicate, smelly balance, and you're the reluctant king of this chaotic domain, you're thrown a splintered slab. You pull on your one outfit, a rough wool tunic, stiff from sweat and stained with yesterday's labor, the fabric patched in places where it started to fray like an old map, the stitches uneven and pulling apart. It itches against your skin, the coarse fibers rubbing you raw with every movement, a constant irritation that you've learned to tune out, the wool chafing your neck and arms. This is your wardrobe, singular, unchanging, a second skin you can't escape, its weight a burden you carry from dawn to dusk. There's no seasonal fashion, no closet full of options to choose from, no silk or linen to dream of. You wear this until it disintegrates into threads or gives you a fungal infection, whichever comes first, the fabric growing thinner with each wash, if you can call a dip in the Tiber a wash. Underwear? Optional, and most Romans skip it. Why bother when you're already living in a wool cocoon, the layers trapping heat and sweat? If you're lucky, you might have a linen under-tunic, thin and threadbare, its edges frayed, but more likely, you're going commando under the scratchy wool, the fabric rubbing against your skin with every step. Shoes are a luxury, maybe you have a pair of leather sandals, barely held together with rough stitching, the soles cracked and offering no arch support, the leather stiff and cutting into your heels, already falling apart after a week of wear. Most people just go barefoot, stepping through mud that squelches between your toes, sharp pebbles that jab your soles, and the occasional pile of animal droppings that litter the streets like landmines, their stench rising with every step. Your feet are already part of the ecosystem, caked with dirt and calluses that feel like armor, your toes curling against the cold stone floor, the skin toughened but sensitive to every rock. Your skin hates you for it, prickling with every movement, and the fleas and lice have claimed residency on your body, tiny invaders that bite with sharp little stings and crawl with impunity, their presence a constant itch. Everyone has them, nobles with their perfumed cloaks, priests with their holy vestments, children playing in the dust, even the emperor's guards with their polished armor, everyone's a walking insect farm, a mobile banquet for these pests. You scratch your armpit with a wooden spoon, the wood splintering slightly under your nails, the scratch a temporary relief, and no one even blinks, their own hands busy with the same ritual. It's just life in Rome, a constant itch you learn to live with, like the hum of the city that never stops, a background noise of carts, voices, and the occasional scream. Nature calls, and it's not calling politely, it's screaming, demanding attention with the subtlety of a Roman legion on the march, its urgency a knot in your stomach. Here's where you start missing the modern bathroom, with its flush toilets, soft toilet paper, and blessed privacy, a sanctuary of solitude you can only dream of. In ancient Rome, relieving yourself is an adventure, a social experiment, and often a small public event that you'd rather avoid, a performance staged for an unwilling audience. If you're a peasant like most, your bathroom is a clay pot in the corner of your room, already half full because your cousin Gaius had a rough night after eating some questionable lentils and a questionable fish stew, the meal a gamble that lost. The smell is biblical, a thick, acrid mix of human waste and despair that hits you like a physical force, making your eyes water and your stomach turn, the stench rising in waves as you approach. You hold your breath, crouch over it, the pot wobbling slightly under your weight, its rim cold against your thighs, and do your business as quickly as possible, the sound a splash that echoes in the small space. Then comes the fun part, tossing it into the street. Yes, the street, welcome to Roman sanitation, a system that turns every alley into a latrine. You're supposed to shout, cave canem. Beware the dog, or in this case, beware the dump, before hurling the contents out the window, your arms swinging with practiced ease, but let's be honest, no one moves fast enough. The liquid splashes onto the cobblestones below, mingling with the muck already there, a brown river that flows downhill, and you hear a muffled curse from a passerby who wasn't quick enough, his sandal slapping into the mess. The streets of Rome are open sewers, a charming, flowing river of human waste, animal droppings, vegetable peels, and mystery liquids you'd rather not examine too closely. Sometimes it's wine spilled from a broken jug, sometimes it's blood from a butcher's stall, sometimes it's something unidentifiable that glistens in the morning light, its surface iridescent with oil. If you're lucky enough to live near a public latrine, congratulations, you get to join the communal experience, a shared misery that binds the city together. It's a long stone bench with holes cut into it, positioned over a trench that flows directly into the Cloaca Maxima, Rome's main sewer system, a marvel of engineering that's also a marvel of stench, its depths a dark mystery. You sit shoulder to shoulder with strangers, maybe the baker with flour on his hands, his fingers sticky, maybe a soldier with a sword at his hip, his armor clanking, chatting about the weather or the latest chariot race while the air grows thick with the smell of human output, a miasma that clings to your clothes. You try not to breathe too deeply, but it's impossible, the odor seeping into your lungs, and you wonder if you'll ever smell anything else. Toilet paper. Never heard of it, a luxury lost to history. Instead, you use a tersorium, a sponge on a stick, shared by everyone, dipped in a bucket of brackish water that's been sitting there for days, its surface rippling with tiny bubbles of decay, the sponge slimy and cold. One slip on the wet stone floor, and you're wading through the trench, your sandals soaked, the water lapping at your calves, a memory that'll haunt you for weeks as the smell clings to your skin like a second shadow. If you're in a rush or too poor for the latrine, you might just squat in an alley, the cobblestones hard under your knees, dodging the judgmental stares of passers-by, a merchant with a raised eyebrow, a child pointing, and the occasional cartwheel that splashes through the muck, the spray hitting your legs. Privacy. What's that? A myth whispered by poets. Your family watches, the goat chews on a straw with a contented grunt, its eyes half closed, and the ants continue their march, unbothered by your plight, their tiny legs clicking against the stone, a rhythm that blends with the city's pulse. You finish, wipe your hands on your tunic because there's nothing else, the fabric absorbing the dampness, and try to pretend this is normal, your dignity a casualty of the morning. You've survived the morning ritual, barely, with your dignity in tatters and your sandals squelching with every step, the wet leather rubbing your heels raw. Time for breakfast, though calling it that feels like a generous stretch of the imagination, a meal that's more obligation than delight. You squat by a tiny brazier, the fire barely flickering because wood is expensive and you can't afford to waste it on something as frivolous as warmth, the flames a weak orange glow that casts shadows on the cracked walls. The smoke curls upward, stinging your eyes, as you huddle closer, your breath visible in the chilly morning air. In your hands is a wooden bowl, chipped at the edges from years of use, its surface stained with old pulse, filled with the same gritty porridge made of barley and water, with maybe a dried fig or a shriveled olive floating on top if you're fortunate enough to have bartered for it with a neighbor's spare coin. It's been simmering in the same pot for days, new ingredients dumped on top of the old ones, creating a thick, gloopy mess that looks like it was scraped off a sandal after a long walk through the fields, the surface filmed with a greasy sheen. The texture is rough, the grains sticking to your teeth like sand, catching between your molars, and the taste is bland, a watery echo of something that might have once been food, the flavor of faint bitterness that lingers. On the side, a hunk of bread so hard it could double as a weapon if you threw it at an invading Goth, its crust a fortress you must breach. It's made from coarse millet flour, often bulked up with grit swept from the mill floor or sawdust collected from a carpenter's shop because wheat is a rich man's fantasy, a luxury reserved for senators and their mistresses, its price a dream beyond your reach. This loaf isn't your friend, you don't slice it, you negotiate with it, breaking off a piece with your hands, the effort cracking your knuckles, and hoping you don't chip a tooth or dislocate a finger in the process, the crumbs dusting your tunic like snow. The bread crumbles slightly, the grit grinding against your teeth, and you feel a grain lodge in your gum, a reminder of the miller's laziness, its presence a persistent annoyance. Drinks? No orange juice to brighten your morning, no coffee to perk you up, just a sip of weak wine, low in alcohol but high in survivability, poured from a cracked clay jug that's been sitting by the brazier, its contents warm and slightly vinegary, the taste sour on your tongue. Why wine? Because the water from the Tiber is a teeming soup of parasites and filth, a bacterial cocktail waiting to ruin your week with cramps and worse, its surface a mirror of decay. So, you start your day with a cup of watered-down grape juice, the same kind kids drink to avoid dysentery, their tiny hands clutching clay cups, the liquid sloshing as they mimic their parents. No one's happy about it, the taste a grimace on every face, but at least it won't kill you immediately, probably, a gamble you take with every sip. Meat or cheese? Dream on, a fantasy for festival days or if your patron is feeling generous, which is as rare as a sunny day in the rainy season. Most Romans don't eat meat more than a few times a year, and when they do, it's likely a tough cut of mutton or a questionable sausage that's been hanging in the smokehouse too long, its skin wrinkled and suspect. Fresh fruit? Only in season, and even then, it rots fast, your figs are already turning to mush, their skin splitting to reveal a brown, sticky interior that attracts more flies, there buzz a constant hum as you swat them away with a lazy hand. Spices? A pinch of pepper costs more than your monthly wages, locked away in the spice trader's vault like a treasure, it sent a distant memory, and salt is a precious commodity rationed by the spoonful, its grains coarse on your tongue. You chew your gritty bread, gulp your Roman wine, and try not to think about the rat that might have nibbled your pulse in the night, its tiny teeth leaving marks on the edge of the bowl, the scratches visible in the firelight. Breakfast doesn't energize you, it just happens to you, a necessary chore you endure before the real work begins, leaving a film of grainy regret on your palate, the taste a lingering shadow. Speaking of work, your job awaits, and it's not for the faint of heart or the weak of spine, a task that tests your body and soul with every breath. You're a laborer, one of the 90% of Romans who toil for survival, not glory, your life a monotonous cycle of sweat and strain that wears you down like a stone in a river. Your task today is hauling stones for the Forum, those massive blocks of marble and travertine that will one day form the heart of Roman public life, their weight a burden on your shoulders, or maybe digging ditches along the Tiber to keep the floods from swallowing your insula whole, the mud sucking at your feet. There's no office with a view to escape to, no coffee breaks to gossip with colleagues over a warm cup, no chance of a promotion to ease the burden, just backbreaking labor from sunup to sundown, 6 days a week, with the 7th reserved for rest only if the gods are kind and the overseer doesn't demand more. Your tools are rudimentary at best, a wooden hoe that's splintering at the handle, its edges worn smooth by your calloused hands, the wood rough against your palms, a rusty sickle that's seen better days and cuts more reluctantly than a dull knife, its blade catching on every root, and whatever strength you can muster from a body that's already aching before noon, your muscles trembling with fatigue. Your hands blister by mid-morning, the skin raw and peeling, the blisters bursting into painful sores that ooze and stick to your tunic, the fabric adhering to the wounds, but you can't stop, the pain a constant companion. The foreman's whip cracks in the distance, a sharp snap that makes you flinch, a reminder that idleness is a luxury you can't afford, his voice barking orders over the clamor. If you're a woman, your day is no easier, you're weaving wool with fingers cramped from hours at the loom, the thread slipping through your hands, fetching water from the public fountain with a jug that sloshes against your hip, the weight pulling at your shoulders, or tending a small garden patch where the soil is more rock than earth, the hoe striking stone with a dull clang, all while dodging stray dogs that snarl at your ankles, their teeth bared, and hawkers shouting about their wares, fish sauce that reeks, cheap wine that sloshes, stolen trinkets that gleam. Children start helping around age 5, their tiny hands gripping a wooden rake or carrying a basket of dirt, their faces smudged with soil, no school to fill their minds with dreams, no playtime to lighten their spirits, just a lifetime of labor stretching ahead like an endless road, their laughter replaced by grunts of effort. There are no weekends, no sick days, if you stop, you don't eat, the hunger a gnawing ache, and if you don't eat, you're replaced by someone hungrier, someone younger, someone who hasn't yet learned to dread the sunrise, their eyes wide with hope. The sun beats down, relentless, turning your tunic into a sodden rag that clings to your skin, soaked with sweat that stings your eyes and drips into the open sores on your hands, the salt burning like fire. You can't remove it, showing too much flesh invites sunburn that blisters your shoulders, the skin peeling in sheets, mosquito bites that itch for days with a maddening persistence, and the judgmental stares of your neighbors who whisper about modesty, their voices a low hum. Winter is no reprieve, you're chilled to the bone, working through cracked walls that let in icy drafts, the cold seeping into your joints, a brazier that dies out by midnight, its embers glowing faintly, leaving you shivering in the dark with teeth chattering and fingers numb, the frost biting at your fingertips. Rain soaks you through, turning the ground to a slippery mire that sucks at your sandals, the mud caking your legs, and heat stroke is just called a bad turn, a shrug from the overseer as you stagger and pray for shade, your vision blurring. No one cares if you're tired, no one asks about your mental health, your job isn't a career, it's a slow-motion endurance test, one you'll either survive or collapse under, and the line between the two is thinner than the thread in your tunic, a fragile thread that snaps with every step. Let's talk about the weather, because in ancient Rome, the climate isn't a season, it's a punishment designed to test your soul, a force of nature that bends you to its will. Summer turns your insula into a clay oven, the heat so oppressive you can feel it pressing down on you like a physical weight, a blanket of humidity that wraps around your chest and makes every breath a labor, your lungs straining against the thick air. There are no fans to stir the stagnant breeze, no cross-ventilation to offer relief, and definitely no deodorant to combat the stench of your unwashed body, a ripe mix of sweat and wool that follows you like a shadow, the odor rising in waves as you move. You sweat through your layers, the tunic clinging to your skin like a wet rag, the fabric chafing your thighs with every step until they're raw and red, the skin rubbing together with a painful friction, but you can't strip down. Showing too much skin is scandalous in the eyes of the priests, their voices booming with warnings, and besides, it invites sunburn that blisters your shoulders and arms, the skin peeling in sheets, mosquito bites that itch for days with a maddening persistence, their hum a constant torment, and the social judgment of your neighbors who whisper about your lack of virtue, their eyes narrowing as you pass. The flies are out in full force, attracted to your sweat and the remnants of last week's fish stew that's still fermenting in the corner, its sour smell mingling with the smoke from your brazier, the flies landing on your hands, their legs tickling. Mosquitoes buzz by your ear while you try to sleep, assuming you can sleep through the noise of your neighbors arguing over a spilled jug, their voices rising in anger, the babies crying in the insula above, their wails sharp and insistent, and the distant clatter of carts on the cobblestones, the wheels grinding against stone. In the fields, the sun bakes you, turning your skin a painful red that peels in sheets, no sunblock to protect you, no hat unless you fashioned one out of straw like a desperate scarecrow, the straw prickling your scalp as you work, the heat beating down like a hammer. Winter, on the other hand, is a different kind of misery, a cold that seeps into your bones and refuses to leave, a chill that settles in your marrow. Your insula has no insulation, no central heating, just wooden walls with gaps you could toss a chicken through, the wind whistling through them like a mournful tune, its icy fingers brushing your skin. The shutters are covered with thin cloth, not glass, letting in drafts that bite at your exposed skin, turning your fingers blue and your nose into a dripping faucet, the mucus freezing on your upper lip. The brazier in the corner is a nice idea, but you don't have enough firewood to keep it going. Wood is expensive, a luxury rationed like bread in a famine, and gathering it from the countryside can get you fined or beaten by the Emperor's guards, their clubs swinging. You wake up with your nose frozen, your breath fogging in the air like a cloud, your feet permanently cold and often damp from the leaks in the roof, the water pooling under your palate and soaking through the straw, the dampness chilling your bones. Your fingers are so stiff they feel like tiny Roman popsicles, barely able to grip your hoe or spoon, the cold locking your joints, and frostbite isn't diagnosed, it's just called bad luck, something you endure with gritted teeth until spring. If you make it that far, your toes numb and tingling. Rain is a constant threat, leaking through the thatched roof and turning your floor into a muddy mess that squelches underfoot, the cold seeping up through your soles, the mud caking your feet. You're either shivering in your damp hovel, wondering if your toes will survive the winter, your breath visible in the dim light, or sweating through your only tunic while your thighs chafe into oblivion, the skin rubbing raw with every movement, the friction a constant pain. Climate control. There is none. Welcome to Roman living, where the weather is your enemy and your only defense is a thin layer of wool and a stubborn will to survive, a will that wavers with every shiver. Thirsty. Need to freshen up. Want to splash some water on your face to wash away the grime and the lingering smell of last night's pulse, the scent a stubborn ghost. Too bad. In ancient Rome, water isn't your friend, it's a silent assassin trying to murder you with every drop, a resource as dangerous as it is necessary. The nearby Tiber River looks inviting, its surface glinting in the sunlight like something out of a fantasy tale, the ripples catching the golden hues of dawn, a deceptive beauty that lures you closer. But don't be fooled. Upstream, someone just dumped a chamber pot into it, the contents swirling into the current in a brown, stinking wave, the splash audible from your window. Downstream, a dead fish floats, its bloated body a grim warning, its scales glinting with decay, while a stray dog laps at the edge, unconcerned, its tongue lapping at the filth. Parasites, bacteria, and the entire microbial army of ancient Rome lurk in every sip, waiting to turn your stomach into a battlefield of cramps, diarrhea, and fevered delirium, their invisible presence a threat you can't see. That's why Romans drink weak wine or small beer instead, yes, even children, their tiny hands clutching clay cups as they mimic their parents, the liquid sloshing as they tilt their heads back. It's not about getting drunk, it's about survival. The brewing process boils the water, killing off the worst of the bugs, making it safer than the river. But don't imagine Roman kids doing keg stands. This is small beer, low in alcohol, high in necessity, its taste a watery bitterness that coats your throat, the flavor a grim necessity. If you're rich, you might sip wine from a silver goblet, the metal cool against your lips, unconcerned with functioning before noon, but for most, it's watered-down grape juice or nothing, poured from a jug that's been sitting by the brazier, its contents warm and slightly vinegary, the taste sour and flat. Bathing? That's a whole other ordeal, a rare event shrouded in suspicion and hardship. Many Romans believe bathing opens your pores and lets disease in, a theory supported by the priests who warn of moral decay, their voices rising in the streets, so they avoid it, keeping a protective layer of filth caked onto their skin as a sort of grim armor against the world, the grime a badge of endurance. Communal baths do exist. The famous Roman bathhouses with their steaming pools and echoing halls, the steam rising in clouds, but they're more for the wealthy, and even then, they've gained a reputation as places for gossip, scandal, and sometimes full-on Roman extracurriculars that would make a senator blush, the whispers echoing off the tiles. The priests often shut them down, claiming they're dens of sin, their incense burners swinging like pendulums, so you're left to fend for yourself, your hygiene a personal battle. If you want to bathe, it's a production, hauling water from the public fountain in a heavy clay jug that sloshes against your hip, the weight pulling at your shoulders, the handle cutting into your palm, boiling it over a fire that smokes your eyes, the flames licking the pot, filling a wooden tub that leaks at the seams, the water dribbling onto the floor, and praying no one else in the house uses it first, or worse, after. Leaving a ring of grime you'll have to scrub with a rag, the effort. Leaving you breathless. Rainwater collected in open barrels sounds refreshing, a glimmer of hope in the dry season, the water catching the light, but it's full of bird droppings, insects that skitter across the surface, their wings buzzing, and moss that thrives in the stagnant pools, its green tendrils curling like tiny fingers, the surface a breeding ground for trouble. One wrong gulp, and you're spending your final days sweating in a straw bed, clutching your stomach, your body racked with spasms, the pain a constant wave, and regretting every choice that led you to this moment, the fever burning your skin. So whether it's going in your mouth, on your body to rinse the sweat, or onto your crops to coax a meager harvest, the water in ancient Rome is less a life source and more a gamble, a dice roll with death as the stakes, the odds stacked against you. Raise a glass of your clean tap water to your Roman ancestors. They didn't have the luxury of hydration without hazard, and they drank their wine with a prayer on their lips, the cup trembling in their hands. Let's say you drank the water, or maybe you just stubbed your toe on a rock shaped like disappointment, its jagged edge cutting into your heel, the blood welling up in a thin line. Either way, you're sick, and you need help. Too bad you live in ancient Rome, where medicine is more like polite torture with a side of superstition, a blend of guesswork and ritual that's as likely to kill you as cure you, a practice steeped in tradition and fear. A fever means your humors are out of balance, blood, phlegm, yellow bile, black bile, the four pillars of Roman medical wisdom, a philosophy handed down from the Greeks and clung to with stubborn pride, their theories etched in scrolls. Too much blood. Time for bloodletting. A barber surgeon, not a doctor, mind you, but the guy who trims your beard with a shaky hand and pulls your teeth with a grunt, grabs a dull blade that's been wiped on his tunic, the cloth stained with old blood, or a hungry leech plucked from a jar of murky water, its body wriggling, and drains your life force into a chipped bowl, the red liquid pooling like a grim offering, the sight making your head spin. You feel faint, your vision blurring at the edges, and the barber nods sagely, "Good, that's the poison leaving you," his voice a low mutter. Feeling worse, your body weak and trembling? "Perfect, it's working," he says with a smirk, the bowl filling as you sway. A broken leg? They'll set it with a stick snapped from a tree, its bark rough against your skin, and some cloth torn from an old tunic, the bones grinding together as they force it into place, the pain a white-hot flash, no anesthesia unless you count passing out from the agony, your screams echoing off the stone walls, the sound bouncing back to haunt you. Surgery, if you need it, say, to remove a festering splinter lodged in your palm or a tumor the size of a grape swelling under your arm, is done with knives that haven't been cleaned since the last triumph parade, the blade dull and nicked, heated over a fire not for sterilization but because it looks scarier that way, the metal glowing red as it hovers over your skin, the heat singeing your hair. Antibiotics are centuries away, a distant dream you can't imagine, and germ theory isn't even a whisper in the medical halls. Romans think disease comes from bad air, a miasma that drifts from the sewers, its stench a warning, angry gods who've taken offense at your last sacrifice, their wrath a thunderclap, or your own moral failings, a sin you must atone for with prayer, your knees on the cold floor. Got a stomach ache after that dodgy pulse, the cramps twisting your gut? Must be Jupiter's wrath, better offer a coin at the temple, the priest's hand outstretched. Toothaches are a special kind of hell, a throbbing pain that makes you consider pulling the tooth yourself with a pair of rusty pliers you found in the alley, the metal cold and gritty against your gums, the idea a desperate hope. That's not a joke, that's the treatment. The barber surgeon will yank it out by candlelight, the flame flickering as he mutters a prayer to Asclepius, the god of healing, no numbing agent, just an iron hook and a lot of screaming that wakes the neighbors, their curses joining yours. If it gets infected, hope you like fevers that burn through your body, the heat radiating from your core, because without antibiotics, it can turn into sepsis, your blood turning toxic, the poison spreading, and kill you before the week is out, your skin mottling with red spots. A toothache in Rome isn't a minor inconvenience, it's a potential death sentence, a countdown to your grave marked by every pulse of pain, each throb a step closer. If your condition worsens, they'll double down with more leeches, their slimy bodies sucking at your skin, their mouths leaving red marks, maybe some crushed herbs rubbed into the wound, mint for freshness, its scent sharp, garlic for strength, its bite pungent, or a prayer to Asclepius, the god of healing, chanted over your sweating form, the words a rhythmic drone. At this point, they're preparing for the cure known as death, the ultimate release from their tender mercies, the priest nodding as he sprinkles water. If you recover, everyone assumes the gods took pity on your pitiful soul, the surgeon takes credit with a smug grin, his chest puffed, and the leech gets a promotion to a fancier jar, its new home a glass prison. Medicine in ancient Rome isn't about healing, it's about surviving the cure, a lottery where the prize is waking up to do it all again tomorrow, your body a battlefield, your spirit a flicker. It's evening now, and after a long day of labor, lice, leeches, and a stomach that's staging its own revolt with cramps that double you over, you shuffle back to your insula, your legs heavy as lead, your shoulders slumped under an invisible weight, your stomach growling like a caged beast, its roar echoing in your ears. You're ready for the one joy left in life, a warm meal to soothe your soul, a moment of peace in the chaos. Bad news, your meal is probably trying to kill you, a culinary gauntlet as dangerous as the streets outside, each bite a roll of the dice. Food preservation doesn't exist, no fridge to keep the rot at bay, no freezer to lock in freshness, just salt rubbed into meat with trembling hands, the grains sticking to your fingers, smoke curling from a makeshift rack in the corner, its haze filling the room, or the faint hope that the cold air will keep things edible for another day, a hope that fades with every hour. Your bread, the cornerstone of the Roman diet, is a gamble every bite, a loaf that holds secrets. In bad harvest years, bakers bulk it up with grit swept from the mill floor, the particles course under your teeth, sawdust collected from a carpenter's shop, its woodsy taste subtle but present, or even clay dug from the riverbank to stretch the flour, turning each loaf into a gritty puzzle that crunches as you chew. If it's made from rye, there's a bonus, ergot, a fungus that lurks in the grain, its purple-black spikes a silent killer baked into your supper, causing convulsions, hallucinations, and sometimes death, its effects a dance of madness that starts with tingling fingers and ends with screams. It's like eating bread laced with a side of delirium, and you won't know until your vision blurs and the walls start spinning. Vegetables are seasonal, right now, it's cabbage, boiled until it's a gray mush that collapses under your spoon, its leaves limp and tasteless, floating in your bowl of pulse, that same mystery stew you've been eating for weeks, its surface filmed with a greasy sheen that reflects the firelight. Fruit rots fast, a race against time, your figs are already turning to mush, their skins splitting to reveal a brown, sticky interior that attracts more flies, their buzz a constant hum as you swat them away with a lazy hand, the insects landing again seconds later. Dairy is another risk, milk spoils in hours under the summer sun, curdling into a sour sludge that smells like sour cheese, and cheese is loaded with bacteria, its rind speckled with mold, green and fuzzy, but you eat it anyway because it's better than chewing your sandal, the taste sharp and biting on your tongue, the texture crumbly. Spices like pepper or cinnamon are worth more than gold, locked away in the spice trader's vault, their scent a distant memory that haunts your dreams, so your flavor comes from onions, their bite strong, maybe a pinch of salt if you've bartered for it with a neighbor's spare coin, the grains coarse, and a whole lot of grit that crunches between your teeth, a reminder of your place. Most meals taste like wet burlap sprinkled with sadness, a flavor profile that lingers like a bad dream, the taste coating your mouth. But food isn't just a health hazard, it's a political one, a minefield of rules. Game animals, rabbits, deer, even a stray boar, belong to the emperor, not you, their flesh a forbidden fruit. Caught poaching with a snare in the woods, the trap hidden under leaves. You could be fined a month's wages, the coins ripped from your hands, imprisoned in a dank cell where the rats outnumber the guards, their squeaks a constant torment, or executed in the forum, your body left as a warning, the crows circling. Your dinner could literally get you killed, a risk you weigh with every hungry glance at the forest edge, the temptation a whisper in your ear. So, as you sit by the flickering firelight, the flames casting shadows on the cracked walls, the heat warming your hands, spooning your gray stew with a wooden ladle that's seen better days, its handle worn smooth, every bite is a risk, a test of fate. The pulse sticks to your ribs, thick and heavy, the bread breaks apart in your hands, the crumbs falling to the floor, and you try not to think about the rat that might have nibbled your bowl in the night, its tiny teeth leaving marks you can feel under your fingers. The scratch is a silent story. In ancient Rome, food doesn't nourish, it tests you, a daily trial by taste and tenacity, and you eat because the alternative is starvation, the hunger a hollow ache. The day isn't over yet. Evening brings religion, and in ancient Rome, the gods are always watching, their eyes peering from every statue, their voices echoing in every temple bell, a constant reminder of your place. The bells ring, morning, noon, night, calling you to pray to Jupiter, the king of the gods, his thunder a threat, Juno, his watchful queen, her gaze piercing, or Mars, the god of war whose favor you desperately need, his spear a symbol of strength. Missing a sacrifice is a sin, a slight that could bring down a plague to ravage your family or a failed harvest to starve your village. The fields barren, and the priests are quick to notice, their robes swishing as they patrol the streets, their sandals slapping against the stone. Your neighbor, Lucius, a wiry man with a permanent scowl and a grudge as old as the insula, will snitch if you skip the festival of Saturnalia, hoping to curry favor with the local magistrate or maybe just to settle an old debt over a borrowed sickle, his voice a whisper in the magistrate's ear. Life revolves around rituals, a cycle of offerings and prayers with no escape from divine judgment. Skip a libation of wine, the red liquid splashing onto the altar, and the gods might send a storm to flood your insula, the water rising to your knees. If you're a woman, it's even harder, a life scripted by tradition and enforced by scrutiny, a cage of expectations. You marry young, often before your 15th birthday, to a man chosen by your father, his face stern, and your role is clear: bear children, their cries filling the night, serve your husband, his demands a constant drumbeat, weave his tunics, the loom creaking under your hands, cook his meals, the fire smoking your eyes, all while keeping the lice at bay, their bites a nightly battle. Childbirth is a death lottery, a shadowy ritual where the odds are stacked against you, the pain a vice around your middle, with no help beyond a midwife's hands, rough, calloused, and trembling, and a prayer to Diana, goddess of childbirth, whispered over your laboring form, her statue cold and unyielding. Many don't survive, their cries fading into the night, the silence a heavy weight, and those who do face more work, nursing infants with milk that's often thin, the baby's lips weak, cooking pulse over a smoky fire, the pot black with use, weaving wool until your fingers bleed, the thread cutting into your skin, all while the lice migrate from your husband's side of the bed to yours, their bites a constant reminder of your place, the itch spreading. Unmarried? You're suspicious, a woman without a man seen as a threat to order, the neighbor's eyes narrowing. Widowed? Vulnerable, a target for remarriage or exploitation, the suitors circling. Outspoken? Dangerous, a spark that could ignite accusations of witchcraft, a charge that comes with a swift trial, dunked in the Tiber, the water cold and deep, or burned in the Forum, the flames licking high, and a public punishment that leaves your family in shame, their heads bowed. In Rome, you endure, obey, and suffer in silence, ideally while keeping a smile on your face, your lips trembling as you nod to the priest who passes by, his incense burner swinging like a pendulum of judgment, the smoke curling around you. Violence is never far away, a shadow that lingers in every alley, a threat that hums beneath the city's surface, a pulse you can feel. The streets erupt in fights over a spilled jug of wine, the liquid splashing onto cobblestones, dark and sticky, as insults fly, words like dog and thief hurled with the force of a thrown stone, the voices rising in anger. Nobles beat peasants for a wrong look at their horse, the crack of a whip echoing, a sharp snap, as a servant falls to his knees, blood trickling from a split lip, the red stark against his pale skin. Trials are brutal, a spectacle of justice that's more theater than fairness, a stage for the crowd's delight. Prove your innocence by dipping your hand in boiling water to retrieve a stone, the steam rising in clouds, the heat searing your flesh, the pain a white-hot flash. If it heals without infection in 3 days, you're innocent, a miracle attributed to the gods, the skin red and blistered. If not, you're guilty, your hand a blackened ruin, the flesh peeling. Or you're tossed into the Tiber, sink, and you're innocent but probably dead, your body sinking into the murky depths, the water closing over your head, float, and you're guilty, facing execution in the forum where the crowd cheers, their voices a roar, as the axe falls, the blade glinting. Public executions are a holiday event, with families bringing picnics, bread and cheese wrapped in cloth, to watch the condemned beheaded, the thud of the blade a dull sound, or crucified, the groan of the cross a mournful creak, the bodies left as warnings, the crows circling overhead. Domestic violence is normal, husbands discipline wives with a fist or a stick, the blow landing with a smack, fathers beat children for spilling pulse, the child's cry sharp, and no one blinks, the sounds absorbed into the city's noise, a background hum. War simmers on the edges, raids from Germanic tribes, their war cries echoing, feuds with Parthia, the arrows flying, and legions marching to Gaul or Britannia, their boots pounding the earth, leaving behind widows and orphans, their wails a constant undertone. Violence isn't a breakdown of society in ancient Rome, it is society, a constant undercurrent that shapes every interaction, a thread woven into the fabric of life. You live knowing life is fragile, justice is a show staged for the masses, the crowd's applause a judge, and your neighbor might bash your head in over a stray goat that wandered into his garden, the blood mixing with the street's filth, the red a stark contrast. Death comes early, a frequent visitor who knocks without warning, its presence a shadow in every corner. If you're alive past 40, you're a statistical miracle, often called, the old one, by your neighbors, their voices tinged with awe and envy as they eye your gray hair, the strands thinning. Infant mortality claims nearly half of all children before age 5, disease like malaria from the swamps, its buzz a constant threat, malnutrition from a bad harvest, the fields bare, or a harsh winter that freezes them in their straw beds, their tiny bodies too weak to fight, is all it takes, the silence after their last breath heavy. No vaccines to shield them, no antibiotics to pull them back from the brink, just prayers and hope that fade with every cough, the mother's tears falling. If you survive childhood, adulthood is a gauntlet of trials, a path strewn with thorns. By 25, your joints creak with every step, the sound a dry crack, your teeth are rotting from grit and neglect, falling out one by one like leaves in autumn, the gap's a constant ache, and your optimism is long gone, replaced by a weary acceptance, your shoulders slumped. Women face childbirth, a leading cause of death, a shadowy ritual where the odds are stacked against them, the pain a vice around their middle, with no pain relief beyond a cloth to bite, the fabric sodden, no medical care beyond a midwife's trembling hands, her voice a whisper, and a prayer to Diana, goddess of childbirth, her statue cold and unyielding, the words fading. The pain is excruciating, the blood pooling on the floor, a dark stain, and many don't survive, their cries fading into the night, the silence a heavy weight, the mother's strength failing. Men die from farming accidents, a scythe slips, the blade cutting deep, a horse kicks, the hoof leaving a bruise, infections that turn a scratch into a festering wound, the skin red and swollen, or a drunken brawl gone wrong, the knife finding a rib, the tavern erupting in chaos, the shouts ringing. The plague sweeps through every few decades, turning cities into cemeteries, its black breath stealing lives in the night, the wails of the dying a constant undertone, the bodies stacked. Famine starves entire villages when the Tiber floods, the water rising, or the harvest fails, the fields brown and empty, leaving skeletons where families once stood, the bones picked clean. A spoiled loaf of bread can send you into hallucinations, your final hours spent screaming at the walls as ergot dances in your blood, the room spinning, your hands clutching your head, the madness of final curtain. Funerals are quick, no embalming to preserve the body, the flesh left to decay, just a hole dug in the necropolis, the dirt loose, a few murmured prayers from a priest who's already eyeing the next grave, his voice monotone, and a shallow mound of earth if there's space, the marker a simple stone. In ancient Rome, life is brutal, short, and constantly under siege by death in all its casual, indifferent forms, its touch a cold hand. You don't retire, you just stop showing up, your name fading from the lips of those who once knew you, the memory a whisper. Let's shift gears, leave the grip behind for a moment, and meet someone who rose above it all. Let's travel to Cleopatra, born in 69 BC in the glittering city of Alexandria, a beacon of culture on Egypt's coast, its lighthouse a guiding light. She wasn't just a queen, she was Egypt's last pharaoh, a woman who ruled with wit, charm, and a fierce determination to keep her throne from crumbling under Roman boots, the marble floors echoing with her steps. Forget the Hollywood image of a sultry seductress with cascading hair and a seductive gaze, her eyes lined with kohl. Cleopatra was a political genius, fluent in 9 languages, including Egyptian, a tongue her Ptolemaic ancestors rarely bothered to learn, preferring Greek as a badge of their Macedonian roots, their voices a foreign hum. She inherited a crumbling kingdom at 18, a land beset by debt, its coffers empty, famine, the fields barren, and threats from Rome, its legions a shadow, her own siblings, their eyes greedy, and a court full of vipers who'd slit her throat for a chance at power, their daggers hidden. Her brother, Ptolemy XIII, a boy of 12 with a crown too big for his head, his voice high and uncertain, tried to oust her, aligning with Roman forces, their standards waving, to push her into exile, the desert a threat. But Cleopatra wasn't one to back down, her spirit unyielding. She smuggled herself into Julius Caesar's quarters, rolled up in a carpet carried by loyal servants, the fabric scratching her skin as she held her breath, the dust tickling her nose, emerging to plead her case with a smile and a sharp mind, her words a weapon. It worked. Caesar, smitten or strategic, his eyes narrowing, backed her, and together they defeated Ptolemy at the Battle of the Nile, his young body lost to the river, the waters red, his reign a footnote in the sand. Their relationship wasn't just political, they had a son, Caesar Ion, a tiny prince with Roman blood and Egyptian destiny, his cradle a symbol, a link that glittered like gold in the Alexandrian sun, his cries a future. But Caesar's assassination in 44 BC, a flurry of knives in the Senate, the marble floor slick with blood, left Cleopatra vulnerable, her ally bleeding out, his last breath a gasp. Enter Mark Antony, Rome's brash general with a temper and a taste for wine, his laughter booming, his legions a force to reckon with, their shields gleaming. Their partnership was both romantic and strategic. They met in Tarsus, where Cleopatra sailed on a golden barge, its sails catching the wind, the oars dipping, her presence a spectacle of power, the crowd gasping. They had 3 children, Alexander Helios, his name a son, Cleopatra Selene, her eyes bright, and Ptolemy Philadelphus, his voice strong, each a link in their dream of an empire that would rival Rome, a Hellenistic vision stretching from Egypt to the Euphrates, the rivers a boundary. Cleopatra's wealth funded Antony's campaigns, her ships sailed beside his legions, their prows cutting through the waves, the salt spray on her face, and her presence turned heads at every banquet, where she styled herself as Isis, the goddess of magic and motherhood, her golden robes shimmering in the torchlight, her kohl-lined eyes scanning the room, her voice a melody of command, the guests silent. But their dream crumbled at the Battle of Actium in 31 BC, where Octavian's forces, led by Agrippa, his strategy cold, crushed them with a naval assault, the ships burning, the sea turning black with oil and blood, the screams rising. Antony fell on his sword in despair, his body slumped against a wall, the steel cold, and Cleopatra, refusing to be paraded as a trophy in Rome, the chains a horror, ended her life in 30 BC with a snakebite, legend says an asp, its fangs sinking into her arm, the venom spreading, though it might have been Ison slipped into a goblet, her final act of defiance, the cup trembling. Her death marked the end of Ptolemaic Egypt, swallowed by Rome's expanding empire, her children scattered, her legacy a whisper in the desert wind, the sands shifting. Cleopatra wasn't just a queen, she was a force, navigating betrayal, war, and power with a mind as sharp as her kohl-lined eyes, a woman who turned a carpet into a throne and a snake into a crown, her story a tapestry. Now let's travel forward to the Renaissance, to meet Leonardo da Vinci, born in 1452 in the small town of Vinci, a cluster of stone houses nestled near Florence, its hills green with olive trees, the air sweet. Leonardo wasn't just an artist, he was a polymath, a man whose curiosity knew no bounds, his mind a whirlwind of sketches and dreams, his hands always moving. He's best known for the Mona Lisa, that enigmatic smile that still captivates the world, her lips curving in a secret only she knows, the paint thick, but his life was so much more than a single painting, his canvas vast. As a boy, he apprenticed with the artist Verrocchio, a gruff man with a workshop filled with the clatter of chisels, the scent of paint thick, learning to mix pigments, the colors vivid, sculpt clay, the mud cool, and dream beyond the canvas, his eyes wide. By his 20s, he was sketching ideas that seemed centuries ahead, flying machines with wings like a bird's, the feathers detailed, tanks with armored shells, the metal imagined, anatomical studies that revealed the human body in ways no one had seen before, his pen tracing the curve of a muscle, the twist of a vein, with a precision that bordered on reverence, the lines delicate. He dissected corpses in secret, risking charges of heresy from the church, his hands gloved in blood, the bodies stiff and cold, their secrets unfolding under his gaze, the candlelight flickering, the room silent. His drawings blended science and art, a dance of lines that still feel revolutionary, each page a testament to a mind that never stopped, the ink fresh. Leonardo's life wasn't easy, a journey marked by movement and uncertainty, his footsteps echoing. He moved between Florence, its streets narrow, Milan, its canals quiet, and Rome, its temples grand, working for warlords like Cesare Borgia, a man with a smile that hid a dagger, his voice smooth, and patrons like the Medici, whose gold came with strings, their hands outstretched. His notebooks, thousands of pages filled with mirror writing to thwart thieves, the script reversed, show a mind that never paused, designs for bridges that arched over rivers, the span wide, weapons that spat fire, the flames imagined, even a primitive helicopter with blades that spun in his imagination, the rotors sketched. But he was a notorious procrastinator, often leaving projects unfinished, his perfectionism a double-edged sword, the canvas blank. The Last Supper, painted in Milan on a monastery wall, began flaking within years because he experimented with a new technique, mixing oil with tempera, that didn't hold, the colors fading as monks prayed beneath it, their voices low. He dreamed big, sketching a giant bronze horse for the Duke of Milan that never cast, its clay model destroyed by French invaders, the pieces scattered, its dream lost. In his later years, he moved to France, invited by King Francis I, who gave him a small chateau at Amboise, its stone walls overlooking the Loire, the river glinting, a gift for a mind that had outgrown Italy, the rooms quiet. Leonardo died there in 1519, at 67, his arms weakened by a stroke that left his hand trembling, the quill falling, but his mind still buzzing with ideas, his final sketches a testament to a life unlived, the paper crinkling. Legend says Francis held him as he passed, the king's tears falling onto the old man's chest, the cloth damp, though that's likely a romantic myth spun by courtiers, their voices soft. Leonardo left behind a legacy of wonder, art that speaks across centuries, the colors vivid, inventions that inspired flight, the wings imagined, and a reminder that curiosity can change the world, even if it's one unfinished sketch at a time, the lines fading. Let's take another journey, back to a city frozen in time, Pompeii, in 79 AD, just months before Mount Vesuvius erupted and turned it to ash, the sky clear. You wake in a small house near the Forum, the air warm with the promise of summer, the scent of baking bread drifting from a nearby bakery, the aroma rich and yeasty. Your bed is a wooden frame with a mattress stuffed with wool, softer than Rome's straw but still lumpy, the fabric worn thin from years of use, the wool shifting with every turn. The room is simple, whitewashed walls adorned with a faded fresco of a grapevine, its leaves green, a small table with a clay lamp, its wick dark, and a chest for your tunics, the wood creaking. Outside, the streets hum with life, vendors shout about olives and wine, their voices overlapping, children chase a ball made of rags, their laughter ringing, and the distant clang of a blacksmith's hammer rings through the morning, the metal striking with a dull thud. You're a baker, your hands dusted with flour, the powder white against your skin, your apron stained with dough, the fabric damp, the smell of yeast clinging to your skin, a comforting scent. Pompeii is a bustling town, its cobblestone streets lined with shops and villas, its amphitheater echoing with the roar of gladiators, the crowd's cheers a wave, its brothels discreetly tucked behind red curtains, the whispers soft. Life here is better than in Rome, fresh water from the aqueduct, the flow steady, fish from the Bay of Naples, their scales glinting, and a market that brims with color, the stalls vibrant. Your day begins with the oven, a stone structure heated by wood, the flames licking the bricks, the heat warming your face, the sweat beading on your brow, the crackle a constant sound. You slide in trays of dough, the bread rising, the aroma filling the shop, drawing customers, farmers with calloused hands, their palms rough, merchants with scrolls, their ink fresh, a slave sent by a wealthy patron, his eyes downcast. You work with your wife, her hands deft as she shapes the loaves, her fingers nimble, her voice humming a tune from her childhood, the melody soft against the crackle of the fire, the notes a memory. Lunch is a break, bread with olive oil, the green liquid pooling, a fig, its skin soft, and a sip of wine, the taste dry, eaten on a bench outside, the sun warming your back, the stone hot. The afternoon brings more baking, the heat intensifying, the streets growing quieter as siesta settles in, the silence a relief, the air still. But beneath the calm, tension simmers, a thread of unease. A slave whispers of strange noises from the mountain, a rumble that shakes the wine cups, the liquid sloshing, and an old man mutters about omens, birds flying backward, their wings a blur, a dog howling at noon, its cry sharp. You shrug it off. Life in Pompeii is about resilience, about living with the earth's moods, the ground a friend. Evening brings the bathhouse, a luxury where you soak in warm water, the steam rising, the chatter of friends easing the day's strain, their voices a hum, the tiles cool. Dinner is fish grilled over coals, its scales crisp, the smoke curling, shared with your family under a sky streaked with pink, the colors soft, the meal a moment. You don't know it, but this is your last night. Vesuvius will erupt in August, burying the city in ash, the sky dark, preserving your bread, the loaves frozen, your frescoes, the colors vivid, your life, the silence deep, in a tomb of silence, the ash falling. Pompeii wasn't just a town, it was a moment, frozen in time, a testament to human tenacity until nature reclaimed it, the mountain a judge. Let's travel east again, to Constantinople in 600 AD, the heart of the Byzantine Empire, a glittering jewel where east meets west, the domes shining. You wake in a stone house near the hippodrome, the roar of chariot races echoing through the streets, the crowd's cheers a distant thunder, the sound rolling. Your bed is a straw pallet topped with a wool blanket, better than Rome's but still crawling with fleas, their bites a morning ritual you've learned to ignore, the itch a companion. The air smells of incense from the nearby church, the scent sweet, sweat from the laborers passing by, the tang sharp, and the sea, a salty breeze carried on the wind from the Bosphorus, the water glinting. The church bells ring, Hagia Sophia isn't far, its massive dome looming over the city like a second sun, its golden mosaics glinting in the dawn, the light dancing. You're a craftsman, maybe a mosaicist, piecing together tiny glass tiles to adorn a basilica, your hands stained with grout, the paste sticky, your fingers aching from the delicate work of fitting blue into gold, the colors vivid, red into green, the shades blending. The workshop is a hum of activity, apprentices grind stones, the dust coating your lungs, the air thick, while a foreman barks orders, his voice sharp as a chisel, the words cutting. Life in Constantinople is a maze of rules and rituals, a city where every step is governed by the emperor's will, his throne high, and the church's gaze, the eyes watching. The emperor, a figure of gold, rules with divine authority, his decrees enforced by a sprawling bureaucracy that taxes your every move, your workshop, the tools heavy, your bread, the loaf warm, even the air you breathe feels like it carries a fee, the coins slipping. The streets are crowded, a tapestry of voices, Greek merchants haggling, their hands waving, Latin soldiers marching, their boots pounding, traders from Persia with silk, the fabric soft, monks from Egypt with scrolls, the parchment crinkling, their sandals slapping against the stone, the sound a rhythm. Food is better here than in Rome, fresh fish from the Bosphorus, its scales glistening, bread baked daily with a crust that crackles, the oven hot, and wine that doesn't taste like despair, poured from amphorae stacked in the market, the liquid red. But danger lurks, a shadow beneath the gold. The Nika riots, half a century ago under Justinian, showed how quickly the city can burn. 30,000 died when the mob turned on the emperor, the flames rising, only stopped by his wife Theodora's refusal to flee, her voice steady as she faced the fire, her eyes fierce. Plague sweeps through every few decades, its black breath stealing lives, the wails of the dying a constant undertone, the bodies stacked, while the empire's borders are under threat from Avars, their spears sharp, Slavs, their voices rough, and Persians, their banners waving, their armies a shadow on the horizon, the land trembling. Religion dominates, Orthodox Christianity shapes every aspect of life, from the icons in your home, their gold faces watching, the paint thick, to the chants echoing from every church, the priests' voices rising in harmony, the sound a wave. Heresy is a death sentence, a whisper that can land you in chains, the metal cold, and the emperor's spies are everywhere, their eyes hidden behind hoods, the shadows deep. Women in Constantinople have more freedom than in Rome, but it's still a man's world, a delicate balance of power and restraint, the scales tipping. Elite women like Theodora, once an actress turned empress, rise to power, her influence shaping laws, her voice firm, and wars, her strategy cold, her beauty a weapon as much as her mind, her face painted. But most are confined to domestic roles, weaving wool with looms that creak, the thread snapping, cooking stews over open fires, the smoke curling, raising children in the shadow of the church, their prayers a shield against hardship, the word soft. Death comes swiftly here too, disease like the plague, its touch fatal, or that claims husbands, their bodies fallen, or a wrong word about the emperor can end you, your body dumped in a mass grave, the earth heavy. Yet the city shines, its culture a blend of Roman law, the scrolls old, Greek philosophy, the ideas deep, and Christian faith, the cross is high, its mosaics a testament to a glory that will endure for centuries, the tiles gleaming, its streets a crossroads where history breathes, even as it bleeds, the blood a stain. Constantinople isn't just a city, it's a living tapestry, a place where every tile you set tells a story of survival, the grout binding. So, as you sink into your cozy bed with heat to warm your toes, the blankets soft, clean water to quench your thirst, the glass cool, and antibiotics to fight your fevers, the pills small, thank the modern world, and those stubborn souls who survived the streets of Rome, the dust thick, the courts of Cleopatra, the gold bright, the workshops of Leonardo, the ink fresh, the ashes of Pompeii, the silence deep, and the domes of Constantinople, the mosaics gleaming. They laughed through the dust, their voices light, loved through the pain, their hearts full, and endured through the grit, their hands strong, making space for light in the darkest times, the flame flickering. Their stories are yours now, a lullaby of history to carry you into dreams, the night quiet. Good night, and may your sleep be far less dusty than these tales, the air clear.